She boarded the plane like everyone else, quiet, tired, and just wanting a safe trip home. But for one Black woman, what should have been an ordinary flight turned into something unforgettable. She smiled politely as she passed through security, found her seat, and let her body sink into the cushions. Around her, passengers scrolled through phones, flipped through magazines, and settled in for the hours ahead. Nothing about this flight felt unusual yet, but beneath the calm hum of the engines, something was about to shift. She didn't know it then, but the journey she thought would be simple was about to place her in the middle of a moment no one on board would ever forget. And when it happened, it wouldn't just test her, it would force everyone else to face a truth many try to ignore. She felt the plane lift off. Just another flight, just another routine. But then came the captain's voice over the intercom. Sharp, uneasy. Is there a fighter pilot on board? Heads turned, eyes searched. Whispers cut through the hum of the engines. And then a finger pointed at her. The cabin froze. She wasn't a pilot. She wasn't trained for this. She was just a Black woman trying to get home. But suddenly, every gaze on her felt heavy, loaded, suspicious. A flight attendant leaned down, voice low but firm. Questions she had never expected. Questions no one else had to answer. Her heart raced. The hum of the plane became a drumbeat in her ears. Every second stretched. Every breath felt measured. Passengers shuffled, muttered, moved away. A mother held her child tighter. A man gripped his briefcase like a weapon. She tried to remain calm, tried to ground herself, but the tension pressed in from all sides. Another announcement. The captain's words vague, but the panic in the cabin was clear. All eyes still on her. All suspicion pointing toward her. She wasn't just a passenger anymore, she was a target of something she hadn't caused. And as the plane soared higher, the question wasn't about what danger might be above. It was about whether anyone on board could see the truth before it was too late. The cabin went silent. Every eye was on her, sharp and accusing. The captain's voice broke through again, this time tighter, almost panicked. We need someone trained now. She stood frozen, heart pounding. Her stomach twisted, a mix of fear and disbelief. She hadn't done anything wrong. She wasn't a threat. Yet the weight of suspicion pressed down on her like the heavy metal of the plane itself. Passengers whispered. Hands trembled over armrests. Every glance she received felt like a judgment. A verdict passed without trial. Then a passenger spoke aloud, a tone she would never forget. She doesn't belong here. The words cut through the air, sharp and cold. Murmurs followed. The weight of centuries of prejudice landed squarely on her shoulders in that moment. She felt the fear, yes, but deeper than that, the anger and helplessness. The flight attendant hesitated, torn between protocol and the injustice unraveling in front of her. The captain's gaze shifted nervously. And then, the unthinkable, the cabin crew treated her like she was the problem, not the situation. Every polite question, every controlled instruction felt like a reminder. She didn't belong, she wasn't trusted. She was under suspicion for no reason other than the color of her skin. Her pulse thundered. Her mind raced. Should she speak up? Could she? Or would any move be twisted into proof against her? And in that suspended second, thousands of feet above the ground, she realized the terrifying truth. Racism isn't always loud. Sometimes it's whispered, assumed, and made visible through the eyes of those who refuse to see beyond it. And just as she braced herself for what felt like the inevitable, the captain finally spoke again. But instead of accusations, a hesitation, a recognition. The room held its breath. The story wasn't over, but the air had shifted. Something had cracked. And for the first time, she glimpsed the possibility that the injustice might not define the entire flight. The tension didn't disappear immediately, but it shifted. Passengers leaned back, some avoiding her eyes, others caught in silent reflection. The whispers faded. The captain's voice returned, measured now, devoid of panic. The flight continued, but the echoes of that moment lingered. She exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the fear and humiliation ebb slightly, replaced by a quiet strength. She hadn't moved mountains, hadn't changed a world in that cabin, but she had endured. She had survived suspicion, prejudice, and the unspoken judgments that so many face every day. In surviving, she reminded herself and anyone watching that dignity does not depend on recognition from those blinded by bias. As the plane touched down, passengers began to stir, return to their routines. But she carried something they couldn't see. The reminder that racism isn't always a headline. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it sneaks at ordinary moments, in the eyes of strangers, in hushed questions, in assumptions made without proof. Her story was more than her own. It was millions of stories, quiet, painful, and demanding acknowledgement. And while the flight ended, the truth it revealed remained. How many times do ordinary people face suspicion, fear, and discrimination simply for existing in a world that refuses to see them fully? As she stepped off the plane, she didn't just leave the cabin behind, she carried a message forward. Awareness is the first step. Empathy the next. Action the one that can change everything. The question for all of us remains, will we see what is happening, or will we, too, look away?